After the massive Houthi assault on March 15th, the United States responded with steel and fury. In the earliest hours of March 16th, just past midnight, the U.S. sent a clear message. This war was far from over. American forces launched a new wave of strikes, this time targeting secondary objectives left untouched in the initial onslaught. But beneath the calm of their precision, something was brewing. The Houthis were preparing one last desperate counterstrike. At 12:30 a.m., the guided missile destroyers USS Stout and USS Jason Dunham were steady, unshaken by the previous night's chaos. On cue, they lit up the horizon with a synchronized barrage of Tomahawk cruise missiles. The impact was immediate. One of the Houthis' primary drone and small boat launch bases was obliterated. A decisive blow, but for the U.S., this was only the beginning. Back at base in Turkey, the B-1B Lancers that had just bombed targets in Yemen were already back on the tarmac. Within hours, they had been refueled, rearmed, and crew-swapped. With fresh hands at the controls and a belly full of ordnance, they roared back into the sky. Their target, one of the Houthis' main UAV operations hubs. At 4:15 a.m., the bombers launched a volley of AGM-158 JASSMs, stealthy, long-range precision weapons with a reach of over 370 kilometers. With the Houthis' air defenses shattered and their radar coverage virtually non-existent, the U.S. bombers soared high above any effective threat. The only weapons the Houthis could possibly fire back were outdated shoulder-fired launchers or old truck-mounted cannons, neither capable of touching aircraft at 60,000 feet. The result? Devastating. F-35C, Lightning IIs from the Black Knight Squadron, rocketed off the deck of the USS Harry S. Truman. Their mission? Destroyed two heavily fortified weapons depots in the Marie Governorate region. The strikes were flawless. Surgical precision, total silence from the enemy. But that silence? It wasn't surrender. It was a setup. As the strike group settled into midday routines, something changed. The Houthis had pooled everything they had into a single massive strike targeting just one ship, and that ship was the Gettysburg. Inside the Combat Information Center, alarms blared. The tactical action officer quickly ran the numbers. The SPY radar could track up to 200 targets, but could only engage about 12 to 18 simultaneously. With over a dozen enemy missiles inbound, the crew had to worry about more than just speed. That's when the senior-most captain in the task force seized tactical command. He ordered the Stout and Dunham to engage the most distant targets with their SM-2 missiles, while the Gettysburg focused on threats approaching the inner perimeter. It was a brilliant high-stakes move, reducing the Gettysburg's engagement list from 12 to 8, but that still left 8 missiles and seconds to act. In a move that defied tactical doctrine, the captain made a snap call: fire only 1 missile per target. Normally, Navy procedure demands 2 per threat to guarantee a kill, but this wasn't a training exercise. This was war, with a 90% hit probability and a fragmentation payload capable of shredding missiles midair. The SM-2s did their job. One after another, incoming threats disappeared from radar. The Gettysburg was still afloat, barely, but U.S. Central Command knew one thing now with certainty. The Houthis were still fighting with coordination and cunning. They had adapted. With fixed command posts destroyed, they were now using mobile control stations, essentially pickups fitted with radio equipment. Small, fast, and nearly invisible. It was time to adapt the weaponry. Enter the GBU-53/B Stormbreaker, a 250-pound glide bomb packing only 105 pounds of explosives, but equipped with something far more valuable: a tri-mode seeker, infrared imaging to detect heat, even down to 1/10 of a degree, millimeter wave radar to cut through smoke, sand, or cloud cover, and a laser guidance system capable of tracking moving targets mid-flight. In essence, the Stormbreaker could hunt and find targets no matter where they hid or how fast they moved. Mobile command posts didn't stand a chance. One by one, they were hunted and destroyed. Later that day, a Navy P-8 Poseidon joined the effort, launching missiles at Houthi training camps. American pressure was unrelenting, but the enemy wasn't finished. Just as the Truman prepared its next round of airstrikes, an unusual radar signature emerged. Fast, silent, non-missile, a swarm. It was a drone wave headed straight for the carrier. To conserve valuable ship-launched munitions, every available FA-18 Super Hornet was scrambled into the air. These weren't just flying with bombs anymore. Each fighter was fully loaded in air-to-air configuration, up to 10 AIM-120 AMRAAMs apiece. But seeing the drones was the hard part. They were small, low profile, and moved in unpredictable patterns. That's where IRST Block 2 came in, passive infrared tracking system housed in a modified centerline tank. This sensor could detect a ballistic missile at 220 kilometers. For the next 7 hours, a running air battle unfolded above the sea. Wave after wave of drones fell from the sky. Dozens were destroyed. maybe more. The official count remains classified. The Houthis were far more resilient and resourceful than anyone had imagined. They weren't just improvising, they were evolving. And now the United States had one objective left: end it.